Hi everybody, Fee Hills here from Manager AI, and today I'm not here with Tony Dane. Today for Learning in Work Week. I really have a problem with that sentence to start off. It's just not flowing. Right. So 2024 talks about, quite rightly so, continuous learning. And so today I'm here with Glenn Bracey, who works with as a co-founder of Future Vision. Welcome, Glenn. And he's going to talk to us about something. I love this subject: powerful state management to future-proof our leaders. But as always with Manager AI, there is a slight unique point, which is he has developed with his team a sort of journey that is going to take us on a 6 weeks experiential and transformative journey through developing state management to really fundamentally help leaders, if you like, reduce the overwhelm that they are most definitely experiencing through the speed of exponential change. So it's quite specific and it has a specific application, but it is absolutely needed. And now Glenn is going to explain why. He's going to start by telling us what is state management, and then from there maybe talk about the journey and so forth. So over to you, Glenn. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks, Fee, and thanks for everybody that's joined. Good morning to you. So yes, things that we're going to cover today are going to be: what is state management, why is it so important at a leadership level, and the target audience here is leaders that are really from an up and coming leadership stage all the way through to C-suite, and I've shared this work at all of those levels, either within facilitation and one-to-one coaching. So we're going to look at why it's so important on an individual basis, but also how that reverberates through the climate of an organization and begins to make huge shifts in the quality of things like our relationships, the quality of our decision making, our ability to stay in focus and tend to things that are really challenging, and many of those things we might not even like or even want to be focusing on. We'll look at, I'll give you a little bit of supportive science around this. Also, what happens when we don't have some defined state management tools? What are we unconsciously doing instead? So I'll touch upon that. So that will allude to some of the pain and also the benefits of looking at this particular journey. And then we'll go in with enough time to show, give you examples of the journey and how it relates over a 6-week period of development. So that's where we're going. I hope that's going to be good. Let's see. Bit of background on me. I've been in learning development for 30 years, 28 of those years, really in the development and sharing of learning around mindset. Supporting that is a trained background in psychology with some different complementary approaches to psychology, including therapy. So I trained in acceptance and commitment therapy back in 2008 because it was very obvious to me back then that at a leadership level, we weren't anywhere near close enough to understanding anxiety within our workforce, and of course that's just ballooned or quadrupled probably ever since then. And also I'm trained within somatics, so that's the body and the understanding of how the body tells the brain what to do. So it's not all about neuroscience out there. Often it's labeled as though it is, but there are key aspects of the body that inform particularly areas like the amygdala what to do. So in this particular session, a six-week journey also, we'll be bringing some of those aspects into how can we utilize really our whole nervous system to get into the state that's required for the moment as quick as 1 second. We don't start off that quickly because this is a development, of course, but that's how quickly we need it for. And I'm also I'm trained to be trauma aware, which also is a supporting important thing, but I won't go into that right now. And principally in my career, I've been a facilitator and coach, coaching C-suite down through to different levels of leadership, to professional athletes, footballers, rugby players, track athletes, frontline riot police, stand-up comedians, lots of people that have huge amount of instant and ongoing pressure, stress, and have to be really quick at adjustments and making decisions within their world and their world of performance. So that's a little bit about me. Right, pause for breath, little sip of water.
Pause for
So
breath. I like that one. I think we all need to do that more, don't we, Glenn? Really. So
yeah.
I'll ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question before you get talking about the actual experiential journey, and that is, why is state management something that should be added on to all leadership programs, in your opinion? Now, I'm asking you that. That obviously you didn't ask me to ask that. This is just random. I really like to know, is this something, I suppose, that needs to be added onto all leadership programs as a subject? So I'm talking about the way you're talking about state management. So talk to that if you can before you tell us about the journey.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Good question, Fee. I'm going to paint a very quick picture around a story for this, which was 12 years ago. I started working with Aikido masters, and they taught me many things, but they taught me about the importance of state, and two things really about a state is that, in their words, state is everything. So if we don't know how to manage our state, we're going to not have the flexibility and adaptability to be able to meet each new changing moment with things like our sense of presence, our sense of attention and focus, but being ready and relaxed, which is super important. These are what they're masters of in each of those moments as they unfold and come at us. So they taught me that state is everything. It's the gateway to everything. It's the gateway for me to be ready and relaxed in this moment when I'm standing up to do a presentation as a leader, when previously I've just been a bag of nerves and I've made sure that I couldn't do that presentation because I was off sick that day or whatever I chose to be, all the way through to then I'm being in the C-suite and facing questions that are really difficult for me to answer. Now my state management is important to that. The meeting ends, and as I walk down the corridor, I've got somebody in tears at me. One of my reports is in tears. Previously, I never used to be comfortable with that level of expression of emotion. What am I going to need? It's the gateway to everything, state management. I've got to manage me before I can manage the situation. And this is where it gets really important in terms of the second thing that they taught me, which is I've got to do that almost at the speed of light. Or in other words, thinking about how to do that is too slow. Now, this is, of course, is useful in our systems to have a clear, positive, orientated thoughts, and I can coach myself with language such as "I can do this," and that's fine at one level. But but from an Aikido master's point of view, that's too slow, and that's too slow now in business. You know, we're dealing with. You know, I read recently. I haven't fact checked it. Dislike that word. All those words. I haven't fact checked it, but I'm being told that we're dealing with 75% more data now than my grandparents were dealing with. Now, so everything is coming at us. So that's what they taught me. State management is the gateway to everything. Thinking is too slow to react. And if you think about it, why Aikido and masters? There's lots of martial arts out there, of course. But what Aikido does brilliantly, second to none, compared to any other environment of martial arts, is that they see what the threat or the challenge coming at them. And what they do is that they're in a state of ready and relaxed where they can utilize the useful things of the other person's state, disarm that, and then take that to a win-win situation. Now, when they were teaching me this, it was like, shit, man, this is what we need as leaders. This is what we need as up and coming leaders. This is what we need in business, because it's just getting faster and faster. So when you watch an Aikido master and they've got one person coming at them, so this is one thing for their attention, then of course they've got great skills as well to be able to disarm the other person. And you look at their state, they're ready and relaxed. But then watch them with 6 threats coming at them, they're still ready and relaxed, because they know that that's where the best performance comes from. So just coming back round to one of the things that you suggested in your point, Fee, was that state management is the foundation of every leadership program. Because if we haven't got state, where are we? And when I ask people, what are they doing instead? Then it's really interesting to manage their state. That is, it's really interesting the main answers that I get back. And maybe, I don't know if I'll pause here, and if not, I can pick up into that.
I want to add something. I want to back you up. Can I just back you up on what you said? We had a game in Cafe Style called, well, we still got a game, called Hakula. Do you know Hakula? You probably do, actually. It's the rugby thing. It's like the sort of down under. I think it might be New Zealand, but whatever. In fact, it isn't. It's Hawaiian, right? So I just misfact that. So it's a Hawaiian state for high performance, right? Now, why am I saying this? Because something I learned, it wasn't to your level at all, but it was one thing about doing something very quick before you go into, say, presentation or something like that. And I think NATO used this type of thing for high performance state, not surprisingly. And anyway, this was really, really funny, because what people did when I was running those workshops is they would say, so what do you do to sort of mindful if you've got anxiety just before your amygdala's going off and it's all kicking off and you're thinking, no, I can't do this presentation or whatever it may be, or they're going to hate me, or whatever thoughts go through your mind. You're right about the thinking. What people do is they tell themselves affirmation. And I used to say affirmation's too late at that point. Because your brain, your mind is going to go, oh, I can do this, I'm great. And then your other part of your mind, that devil part, goes, no, you're not, you're rotten. And it starts almost playing this thought pattern out. You don't want any thought. Your mind has to be empty at the point. So no affirmation at the point of presentation or some threat situation. Anyway, that was the point I want to make. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Thinking won't get you out of that at that point. So carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. And what happens is that, of course, state management also is the tools in state management are direct tools for the stress, fight, flight, and freeze response. And they're part of this journey for leaders is to, in the early stages, is to help them to become just a little bit more aware, because at this moment in time, they're going into unconscious fight, flight, and freeze. Now, of course, if somebody comes around the corner and they've got an axe and they're looking at you with a big grin on their face running towards you, of course, we're going to go into fight, flight, and freeze. Everybody understands that. At that level of awareness, we kind of assume that we know when we're going into fight, flight, and freeze, but that's just not the case at all. Because what will happen is that in the body, before thought is even manifested, the body goes into some kind of early contraction or tension of which will take you into a freeze position. a flight position or a fight position or a combination of those. That's happening before thought. So we're already recoiling. As a leader, I might be already recoiling and going into freeze as the CEO asks me, with his burning eyes piercing into my burning eyes, this question. And this is a CEO who doesn't mince his words and gives you very few seconds to be able to respond, because you've got to look confident back. That's a lot of pressure. But if I'm not aware of what's going on in my system, which is part of the journey here that we're sharing with people, to raise their awareness, to become present to what's really going on within themselves first, with that level of presence that then folds into attention and focus, then what happens is that I can engage state management before I get lost in thinking or sidetracked in thinking. I mean, Fee, nearly everybody I think knows, well, not everybody, that's a big exaggeration, but lots of people know that, 90% of our thoughts are either going in a negative direction, or it's not going to help, thoughts that are not going to help us, or they're just repetitive, 90% of our thoughts. So this kind of links in now, or background to what I was sharing about what are people doing unconsciously instead to try and manage their thoughts. And of course, I'm going to give you a variety of the very common answers that I get back. And common answers are: try and stay positive. But we know with the 90% of the way thought works, that's going to work intermittently, often at best. Soldier on is another standard term. Just kind of grit your teeth and go for it. The difficulty with soldier on is that the body will hold fight, flight, freeze, and contraction as a part of its daily routine. So guess what? Back to that scenario I said, I'm in the C-suite in a meeting, tough meeting. I come out as a leader, meet one of my reports, and they're in tears. I'm already contracting, sending him or her or they signals that I'm recoiling away from being with them in tears. What does that do to psychological safety within the climate? What does that do to emotional authenticity? What does that do to the amount of people that leave a job because of their dysfunctional relationship with their manager? What does that do to team morale? Because the whispers go around about how limited I am to be able to deal with the emotions that practically drive every quality of performance, all because as a leader, I don't know how to manage my state. Other ways to manage it, common ways to manage a state that would be go and have a cigarette, of course. It would be to go and have a conversation with somebody we like, because if we're feeling under pressure, what we tend to do, of course, is then switch out of that pressure because we haven't got the tools to deal with it. So, some people in the audience will know that the research back in 2010 from Harvard with Matt Killingsworth and Dan Gilbert, that nearly 50% of the time, so 47% of the time, we are elsewhere with our thoughts. Now that's taking us out of the present moment, and sometimes it's taking us out of the present moment because we haven't got the ability or the state management to stay in the present moment, because that present moment is difficult and really challenging. And that can, all of those little scenarios that I've just shared can be fixed and eradicated with well-developed state management tools. And so so in other words, back to Ido, whoever he is, Aikido master, Aikido masters. So it's the gateway for everything. Of course, people will go out and with a little, some people will go out, or they just take a breath, and that's great, and they're now a little bit more fuller in their sense of, okay, how do I manage my state? Some people might just go out if they can out of the office or wherever they're working, if they're working from home, and feel the breeze on their face, for instance. And all of that is really good. And some people will create soak up all the pressure and the stress and the tension and the reactivity through a working week, and they're almost hanging on in there until they get to their yoga session.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt here. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt because we've got 10 minutes left, and what I would like to hear, would you say I? It's not about me, is it? What I'm sure everyone wants to hear is, okay, crack it. What is this 6-week experiential mind nudging, etc., blended journey gonna do, Glenn? What are you gonna do when you Sherpa leaders and up and coming leaders through estate management? Because whatever it is, I'm joining I'm joining this mind nudging
journey,
experiential session myself, for sure. I think I need it, but carry on. Go on.
Yeah.
So tell us about the journey.
Yeah, the setup of so the aim really is going to be to get to a place where we can, in the moment, and I literally mean that, in the moment, every second, we've got the ability to tune into a state which is ready and relaxed, not slightly tense and reactive. And how we're going to slowly build into that. Of course, what we've got to do in the early weeks, like week 1, we have an orientation that's within what we call a pop-up. So that's a small live sharing with people. So we get them used to where they're going within the journey and how they navigate the journey. And then we turn the focus on becoming what I call a trigger hunter. So I've got to be clear about what is it in my environment, that could be who and what situations are my triggers, because some of my triggers, Fee, will be different to yours. Some things that don't trigger you for some reason kind of get to me, so that we identify that, and then we're going through the very intelligent process here of all the mind nudging journeys, which is observing first, reflecting, and then taking those observations and reflections towards what's going to be the subtle change or action that has come out of that learning. And as we know through mind nudging, that's going to happen just in the flow of work. So we're not taking people out of their day jobs and learning. There's no real extraction for this, because people can do that level of observation and reflection and begin to look at adjustments just by observing in their day-to-day who and what triggers them. Then we progress that after looking at the triggers through the mind nudging. Then the nudges take it a little bit further, which is, what's my personal reactions to that particular trigger? Now, this is in three areas really: thoughts and brain. How do I react with my internal dialogue about that situation or that person? That could be something like, oh, idiot. That could be idiot about someone else. It could be idiot about me. Of course, then there could be triggers within our emotions, such as frustrations, and it could be a physical body trigger, such a raise of an eyebrow, or I raise my eyebrows because you're my one of my colleagues, and I have the thought of idiot. Here she goes again, and I raise my eyebrows. So we're bringing.
I love it.
I never would do that for you, Fee. But no, I'm
just doing it to you. I'm going like that, really.
Yeah. So now we've got the ground from which we need to work from, and then we're going to start layering in and the personal context. When I say the ground, so the personal context, and this is where through this nudging, people can begin to own their own personal own personal reactions, of course, to them, responses, and they also, of course, this fits into standard management teaching, which of course is, and leadership teaching, which is about let's look at what we can control, and we've got the ability to control all of those things. And then on week 3, we start layering in the tools to control, to help them to do that. And that will be a steady path forward. The tools can work instantaneously from week 3, but we're still apprentices. And so what we begin to do from week 3 through to the final 3 weeks is layer in extra nudges and little advancements and tweaks where people can then start to feel the winds of their state being ready and relaxed in certain situations, and then build them up to slightly tougher situations, more intense situations, to slowly build them to week 6, where I'll be inviting people to take it to their what I call no more nemesis, to their biggest challenges that they face in the workplace. So let's say you and I, as leaders of different departments, or maybe we might be a leader of a particular country, but we have to liaise. I'm in England, you're in Europe, Fee. We have to liaise every month because there's lots of stuff to us to coordinate on, except that you and I, since we've been working together 10 months ago, both of us hate the meetings and really dislike each other. And we both know that we struggle with those meetings, and that's not only affecting our personal results, but also our mood and absolutely everything else that just ripples through everybody that we're leading, and our decision making is just unclear. And there's focus on that. We react out of that because we're trying to get one over on each other because we don't know how to settle that relationship. The gateway to healing that relationship and getting it as functional and optimizing that functionality is state management. So that's the kind of nemesis situation that could be used for. And I've worked with leaders on their personal versions of those situations too.
So because we've got about 3 minutes left, I'd like to bring you to the point of talking about one, the outcomes. So what can I expect as an outcome as a leader? And you've already mentioned a couple of things. It's quite immediate, isn't it, in terms of these techniques being able to be applied and executed. But 2, I feel this is good to be added on to leadership programs. I feel like almost as well as a standalone thing. I feel this is a journey that can support and make other leadership, more traditional leadership programs stronger. And that was just something I've picked up. Talk to that for the last couple of minutes. And also, how can people get in touch with you, link in with you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so I wouldn't, very quick, I wouldn't start any leadership program without this. And if the leadership program is a bold claim, hasn't got state management within it, it's the program is underperforming. The immediate benefits for leaders going through this, of course, will be felt first, because the journey is about self first, and then how all the positive effects then start to go on to with others. And of course, then we're talking about the ripple effects into teams, and how a team or a department or a whole business works. Because it's changing the climate in just 6 weeks. Of course, those personal benefits at the beginning are going to be less mind wandering, much more focus, much more attention, less blame, less overwhelm, less chance of burnout, managing stress.
So it's a small thing. Sorry to interrupt. It's a small thing. Also, there's a question from Tony. It's a small thing having a huge impact. That's what I'm feeling on this one. So Tony said it sounds like the perfect tool for leaders through change. So what are your thoughts on that? That's my question.
Yeah, completely. And
we're going to go over time.
Yeah, okay. Completely, because what's the big challenge to change? Well, it's all of the reactivity. It starts inside first. emotions and feelings. And, you know, that could be shit. What, we're going in that direction now, or whatever it would be. Now that's the beginning. That's almost like the ignition. But we know that the mind's going to get hold of all of that kind of stuff and begin to talk us out of the ability to be able to handle the change. State management, because that can, you can practice it where it can happen literally in 1 second. Then if I hear my mind go shit, la-di-da, that's the big clue for me to go state management. And then that creates space. Now, we all need that space to be able to see the reality and the truth that the big bad wolf of change is pretty much all bite and no bark. Sorry, all bark and no bite. Got the wrong way around. Woof, woof.
I know what you mean. We know what you mean.
Yeah. So it's.
I'm going to have to. Sorry, Glenn, go on. Sorry.
No, that's it. In terms of people can contact me through LinkedIn, of course. They can come through you, Fee. They can send me questions, any challenging questions around this. I think Tony mentioned it yesterday. We do have the offer on, or there was the first 5 companies get 50% off this journey if they apply for it before the 31st of March, or that's the cutoff point, the 31st of March. I believe that out of the 5, 2 places.
Bless us. Bless us. We're all doing that. We're literally. May. It's going so quick. Speed of change.
Yeah, 2 places already gone, so there's only 3 places left of that super fantastic deal. But yeah, this might create lots more questions for people. So please send me those questions, and of course, and I won't be hounding and spamming you afterwards just because you sent me a question, because I see you as a sales opportunity. I'm really interested in you testing this particular journey through questions, because of course that's going to be really important for anybody looking at this.
Amazing. Thank you for today. And I'm sure everybody's found this subject fascinating if they didn't know much about it already. I personally have found it fascinating because it's a very deep look at something we all sort of know that we need, but we don't really understand it as a subject. Now, I'm sure loads of people understand it if they're expert in it or have already done it. But I, for one, wasn't huge on this subject. But now that I hear more about it, Glenn, I think it's amazing. So thank you for today. I would make an appalling anchor, I got to say, because I've gone way over time and allowed that to happen. But suffice to say, thank you very much. And if anyone does have any questions, DM me or Glenn, and we're good to go. So thank you very much, Glenn, and thank you, everybody, for being here today or watching the recording.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.